Hello, my name is Cherie, and if you're new to my channel, thanks for stopping by. This is a Singer 1591 that I began restoring several months ago, and I do have another video about this same machine. And if you would like to go and take a look at that video, then I will leave a link to it down in the description box below and also somewhere here on screen. The machine was sewing just fine, but then problems started to arise and the project ended up becoming a total failure. I wanted to show you that failure because I wanted you to learn from my mistakes and also understand what you're getting yourself into when you decide to tear down a machine, repaint it, and rebuild it again. I know that a lot of people don't often show their failures, but I am showing you mine, so please do be sensitive to that down in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's get into it. Today we are in my sewing machine restoration area slash sewing machine room, and you are looking at my Singer 15-91 sewing machine that I did a restoration project on a few months ago. This project has been nothing but the devil from the very beginning, and I'm going to explain why. So I first laid eyes on this machine a few months ago at a thrift store, and when I saw it I just had to have it. But the only problem was that the machine was in a table that looked like it was completely rotted out. I wanted to unscrew the machine from the table and just take the machine head with me, but the owner really did not want the table and really wanted to try to force me to take the table with me too, even though there was a whole dumpster there that it could have been thrown away in. I ended up just getting the machine itself and not taking the table with me. And I got it home and I decided that I was going to do an entire restoration project where I completely tore apart the entire machine, put it back together, repainted it, and all of that good stuff. But here's where that went wrong. I had a problem with my computer and lost all of my files concerning the restoration project, and really all that you saw was me putting the machine back together. Then, once I got to the point of placing the motor back on, I ran into another issue, and that is what I wanted to talk to you about today. Before I get into talking about the problem, I have to talk about the potted motor itself and how it functions. You have a bundle of copper wires, which I have no idea what they're formally called, but on either side of those copper wires, you have some cords that are soldered on, and then those cords come through and come out the side of the machine, where they then are attached to this little housing here that also holds the foot control so that you can power your machine. The copper wires are also attached to a shaft that runs the length of the potted motor, and then that shaft is attached to a worm gear. The power from your motor powers the worm gear so that the worm gear continually turns inside the machine. And then that energy that comes from that worm gear that's in here transfers to this worm gear that's on the hand wheel so that your machine fully runs. Okay. Here's where I ran into a problem. I already knew that I was going to have to replace the two wires in here because they were completely worn down and the motor was not running. But I could not get this bundle of copper wires out because the worm gear was stuck inside the machine. There's two set screws that hold the worm gear in place, and those were completely worn down. Here are some of the things that I tried in order to get that worm gear out. I tried to put a rubber band onto the screw heads to try to create more friction so that I could use my flathead screwdriver to remove them. That did not work. I tried to drill a larger screw channel with my Dremel, and that also did not work because the set screws are flush with the worm gear, and I was afraid that I would actually damage my worm gear by trying to do that. Next, I took some JB weld and attached it to each one of the set screws and tried to put another screw on top and attach it with that JB weld to create a strong bond, because I figured then I would be able to unscrew those screws That too did not work because the JB weld did not create a strong enough bond. My last resort was to use a screw extractor set to extract the screws. The screw extractor did not work because of the funny angle that it's at, like this, so I couldn't get it to bite properly. Please take a moment to give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe and tap that notification bell to receive updates. The last resort altogether was to just use a drill press, and the drill press worked perfectly to completely drill out those screws. But then, of course, I had to tap new screw holes in order to be able to put the worm gear back in place. Once that worm gear was out, I was then able to solder on some new wiring and then put this whole thing back together. And this is where we are right now with the project. I've been sewing on this Singer 1591, and this is the quality of the stitch. I only set the sewing machine to a 1 on the upper tension, and I only use a size 14 needle. This is about 5 or 6 layers of denim, and it just went through it breezy without a problem. So I know this is a wonderful workhorse machine. However, there is a problem with the motor. It starts smoking, so I stopped using it because I know that when the motor smokes, that means that it's actually burning the motor. So when I open this up, I noticed that this coil here is broken off. That's something that I never noticed before. Then the fill coil now is starting, that material around the fill coil is starting to wear off. And as you can see, there's the exposed copper wiring right there. And it's also the same way on the opposite side. And this stuff is just coming right off. I'm not even making efforts. And it's just coming right off of the fill coil. And I'm not sure if that can be repaired or if it's just going to require a whole motor replacement, or if I'm just going to have to use this machine as a 4-parts machine. But we shall see what ends up happening. And I'm so sad that this machine is having so much trouble because of how beautiful the stitch is. I already know that some of you are going to comment that the wires are too thick. Fatter wires have a higher ampacity because they have larger gauge sizes and thicker insulation, allowing for more current to safely flow through. However, I do understand that the problem with having the thicker wires on this small sewing machine is that the wires could potentially touch, and the red and the black wires are never ever supposed to touch. So what I decided to do was to undo all of the wiring and go to the standard 18 gauge wiring that is suggested for this particular sewing machine. I also decided to replace the armature with one that I found off of eBay, and then I decided to also rewrap the fill coil in hopes of repairing this and making it all work and all the problems go away. There's a mountain of footage from the repair process, but I'm not going to bore you with all of that, but simply show you a few highlights. button it all back up. You just have to make sure not to touch black and red wires together, and then you should be straight. I made the backdrop to this video clip all white because I thought this was going to be the big reveal moment where the machine started working. However, as you can see, the machine does not work, so this project was a total failure. I know that we learn new things through failures, but sometimes failures can be quite painful, as this was for me. I hope that you learned something from my failure, and I honestly never want to see this sewing machine again, but I do hope that you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to receive more sewing related content. Peace.